You want to know the fastest way to make a woman lose interest in you? Chase her. Blow up her phone. Be always available. That's the secret recipe for becoming invisible. But here's what they never tell you. If you stop chasing, if you pull back just right, you can flip her brain chemistry upside down and make her obsess over you. Look, most guys have it all backwards. They think being nice, being available, and proving their love is what keeps a woman hooked. But if that actually worked, why are so many guys still getting ghosted, friend-zoned, or ignored? What women say they want and what actually triggers their obsession are two completely different things. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to shift the power dynamic, how to get inside her head, and how to make her think about you nonstop without chasing her for a second. Most guys never realize that the biggest reason women lose interest has nothing to do with looks, money, or how smooth you are. It comes down to how available you make yourself too early. Women don't fall for what they already have. They fall for what they feel they might lose. And the sad part is, most guys destroy their chances before they even get started because they think chasing her will win her over. What it actually does is signal to her that you've already made up your mind about her value before she's had a chance to earn your attention. And trust me, if a woman feels like she didn't have to earn your presence, she's not going to value it. Because the second you become predictable, the second you show her that you'll always be there, no matter what she does or how she treats you, that's the exact moment she starts emotionally checking out. And it happens slowly. First the texts get shorter, then the replies take longer, then the effort drops off. Eventually, you find yourself wondering what went wrong. But it's not because you weren't good enough. It's because you didn't understand what triggers obsession in women. The truth is, when you pull back and focus on yourself, when you stop showing up like she's the prize and you're the one chasing it, something switches in her brain. Suddenly, you're not the guy who's trying to impress her. You're the guy who's living life on his terms. And that energy, that's what draws her in. Women are drawn to men who don't need them to feel good about themselves. The more grounded you are in your own value, the more she starts to wonder, what's going on in his world? Why doesn't he need me? Who's giving him attention if it's not me? And that curiosity becomes emotional tension. That tension becomes desire. And before she even realizes it, you're on her mind, constantly. You've stopped chasing, and now she's trying to figure you out. That's when the game changes. That's when she starts obsessing. It's crazy how fast things flip once you stop being the one who gives everything up front. I've seen this play out in real life, over and over again. There was a guy I knew, quiet, laid back, not the flashiest dude in the room. He met a girl at a party, they vibed, and she liked him. But instead of texting her every day, or trying to prove how into her he was, he chilled. He waited. He gave her space. He let her reach out. And even though she was beautiful, had a ton of attention from other guys, she kept texting him. Because unlike all the others, he wasn't trying to win her. He was just doing his thing, focused on his own life. And because of that, she felt something she didn't feel with the others. Intrigue. That intrigue is what made her come closer. Because every time she reached out and didn't get an instant reply, every time he was polite but not overly invested, it made her feel like she had to earn his energy. She felt slightly off balance in the best way. And women crave that. It's what keeps them emotionally engaged. Now don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean you act cold or distant. This isn't about being toxic or disrespectful. It's about pulling back just enough so she has to lean in. It's about letting her chase you a little so her mind starts creating emotional investment. Think about it like this. When you buy something expensive, you treat it differently, right? You handle it with care. Why? Because you had to work for it. You value what you earn. Same thing goes for emotional relationships. If she has to work for your attention, if she feels like your energy is something she has to qualify for, then she'll value it 10 times more. But if you're just giving it out freely, without her showing that she respects or reciprocates it, then she'll take it for granted, every single time. Women fall in love in the spaces between certainty, when she's not sure what you're thinking, when she's slightly unsure of your feelings, when there's just enough distance for her imagination to fill in the blanks. That's what creates emotional momentum. When you chase, you rob her of that experience. You remove the tension. You become the guy she already figured out. And when she's figured you out too early, the game is over. She won't say it to your face. She'll still reply to texts. She might even meet up once or twice. But the spark will start fading, and you won't even know why. Because in your mind, you did everything right. But the truth is, you didn't create the tension. You didn't make her wonder. You didn't let her earn you. Now here's where it gets even deeper. When you stop chasing, you also force her to confront her own feelings. Most women don't know how much they like a guy until he pulls away. When you're constantly showing up, giving her validation, she doesn't have to think about you, because you're already giving her everything. But when you go quiet, when you start focusing on your own life, she suddenly has to sit with her thoughts. And that's when the emotions bubble up. She starts asking herself, why hasn't he texted? Did I do something wrong? Is he seeing someone else? Her brain starts racing, and now, you're the one taking up space in her head. That's the beginning of obsession. And the best part is, it doesn't require manipulation. It doesn't require being someone you're not. It just requires a shift in mindset. This is what most men don't understand. Your energy is currency. The way you show up, how much you give, how quickly you respond, that all sends a message. And when you send the message that you're always available, you're telling her that you have nothing else going on, that your time isn't valuable, that you're waiting for her. And no matter how sweet you are, how good your intentions are, that energy will always be unattractive, because high-value men aren't desperate. High-value men don't chase. They attract. And attraction isn't about words. It's about energy. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about what you tolerate, what you ignore, what you respond to. If you can learn to stop pouring all your effort into trying to win her approval and start putting that energy into your own life, your goals, your fitness, your mindset, that's when you start becoming magnetic. That's when women start noticing something different about you. They can't quite explain it, but they feel it. And it makes them curious. It makes them want to know more. And that's when the obsession begins. When a woman becomes curious about you, she starts to invest emotionally. Not because you asked her to, not because you begged for her attention, but because you made her feel something that most guys don't: uncertainty. You gave her something to think about. You disrupted the pattern she's used to. See, most women are used to being chased, complimented, prioritized from the jump. So when you're the guy who doesn't play by those rules, you automatically stand out. She starts replaying your conversations in her mind. She starts asking her friends what they think. She starts noticing your social media stories more. And it's all because you stopped doing what every other guy does. You flipped the dynamic. Now here's the interesting part. When you stop chasing her, she starts chasing the version of you she built in her mind. She starts fantasizing about who you are, what you're doing, and why you're not giving her the same attention other guys would. And the best part? She fills in the blanks in your favor. She assumes you're confident. She assumes you're talking to other women. She assumes you have better things to do. Even if you're just chilling and focusing on yourself, in her mind, you become the guy who doesn't need her. And that creates massive attraction. It taps into a psychological trigger that makes people want what they feel they can't fully have. It's not just about being distant, it's about being selective. She needs to feel that your attention is earned, not given away for free. There's a big difference between ignoring someone and being unbothered. Ignoring is intentional. It comes off as manipulative. But being unbothered, that's attractive. It means you're not trying to prove anything. You're not waiting around. You're not emotionally attached to an outcome. And women feel that energy. They notice it. It's not just what you say, it's the way you carry yourself when you're around her. If she senses that her beauty doesn't faze you, that you're not throwing your whole world at her feet, it actually makes her want your approval more. Not because she's shallow, but because she's used to being in control. And you, by being grounded and detached, take some of that control away without even trying. That's how you flip the power dynamic, by not giving her emotional certainty right away. You ever notice how women become more interested in the guy who doesn't seem to need them? There's a reason for that. When a man doesn't need a woman, his energy shifts. He's calm. He doesn't try too hard. He's not afraid to walk away. And women can feel that. It's like a sixth sense. It makes her think, what's going on with this guy? And as soon as she starts thinking like that, she's hooked. Not because of some line you used, not because of your looks, but because of your energy. That quiet confidence, that I'm good with or without you attitude. It's powerful. And the more she feels like you're hard to impress, the more she wants to impress you. This is where most guys mess up. They get a little bit of interest from a woman, and they go all in. They double text. They cancel plans to see her. They show her all their cards way too soon. And in doing that, they kill the mystery. They kill the thrill. Because now, she knows you're already sold on her. And if she didn't have to do anything to earn that, it feels cheap. It feels one-sided. And she starts to wonder, why is he so into me already? What does that say about him? Women respect men who have standards. Men who don't just fall for every pretty face. Men who can walk away from beauty if the energy isn't right. That's rare. And that's exactly why it's so attractive. And here's something you might not expect. When you stop chasing, it doesn't just affect her feelings. It affects yours too. You start to see things clearly. You stop putting her on a pedestal. You realize that she's just a person, not some goddess who holds the key to your happiness. You begin to evaluate how she shows up for you, how she treats you, and whether she's even worth your time. And that mindset shift, that's when you truly become powerful. Because now, you're not trying to impress her. You're watching to see if she impresses you. That's the switch that changes everything. That's what makes her obsessed. Because when a woman realizes that you're not chasing her, and you're not waiting on her, she starts to question her own value in your world. She starts thinking about how to keep you, not just how to get your attention. It all comes down to emotional balance. Women feel secure when a man has control over his emotions, when you're not constantly seeking validation, when you're not up and down based on whether she texts back. That kind of emotional steadiness is rare, and it makes her feel like she's dealing with a man, not a boy, a man who knows what he wants, but isn't afraid to walk away from what doesn't serve him. That's magnetic. And the more you live in that energy, the more women gravitate toward you without you even trying. So instead of chasing her, chase your purpose. Build yourself. Get busy with your own life. When you make your life the center of your world, instead of her, something incredible happens. She starts rotating around you. She starts texting first. She starts initiating plans. She starts bringing more to the table. Why? Because she senses your value. And more importantly, she senses that your world doesn't stop without her. That scares her. That excites her. And that's what keeps her coming back. That's what makes her obsess. Now think about this. When a woman realizes that you're not checking for her like the others, it hits differently. Not in a negative way, but in a way that challenges her. It makes her wonder if she even has what it takes to get a guy like you. That feeling of not being sure where she stands with you. That's the emotional tension that pulls her in. Women are emotional creatures, and they respond to what they feel, not just what they see or hear. So when she feels like she has to earn your attention, it triggers something deep inside her. The desire to prove her worth. That's when she starts putting in the effort. That's when she starts showing up better, dressing a little nicer, texting you a little more. And all you did was lean back and protect your energy. But here's what separates the guys who just get attention from the ones who leave a lasting impact. Consistency and self-respect. You can't just pull back for a week and expect magic. You can't fake detachment. It has to be real. Women can feel when you're pretending to not care just to get a reaction. And when they sense that, the game is over. But when you actually live like you've got options, When you actually have a life that excites you, she becomes the one chasing. And not in a desperate way, but in a way that's natural. She'll mirror your energy. She'll want to match your vibe. Because deep down, every woman wants a man who doesn't need her, but chooses her. That's the difference. One of the biggest mistakes men make is thinking that chasing equals effort. They confuse validation with value. Just because you're doing the most doesn't mean she sees you as high value. In fact, it's usually the opposite. When a man overextends himself too soon, when he's always available, always complimenting her, always trying to win her over, it communicates something very subtle but powerful. I don't believe I'm enough unless I'm constantly proving it to you. And that kills attraction. Because the second a woman feels like she's the prize and you're just lucky to be in her space, the respect is gone. And once respect disappears, obsession is off the table. Let's flip the script. Imagine a guy who's mysterious. He's present when he's with her, but he's not always around. He doesn't overshare. He lets her wonder. He doesn't always initiate, but when he does, it feels intentional. He doesn't just react to her moods. He has his own emotional rhythm. That kind of man becomes addictive. Why? Because he's not predictable. And unpredictability, in the emotional sense, creates psychological hooks. It keeps her brain engaged. It keeps her asking questions. Does he like me? Why hasn't he called today? What is he thinking? And once she's asking herself those things, she's already emotionally invested. And it's all because you stopped chasing and started creating space for her to come to you. Another thing that makes a woman obsess: boundaries. Strong boundaries. Not just the kind you talk about, but the kind you live by. When you show her, through your actions, that you won't tolerate disrespect, flakiness, or low effort, you're telling her something powerful without saying a word. You're showing her that you respect yourself more than you want her attention. That's rare. Most guys bend over backward just to keep the vibe alive. They tolerate breadcrumbs. They stay in conversations that are clearly one-sided. But the man who can say, "Nah, this isn't enough for me," and walk away without drama, he becomes unforgettable. Because now, she has to wonder what she did wrong. She starts analyzing herself. She starts thinking about how to win you back. And here's the cold truth. Women don't obsess over the guy who's always there. They obsess over the guy who was there, but pulled back when she started slacking. That shift, that change in energy, it creates regret. It makes her reflect, especially if you were once interested, giving her attention, showing her that you saw potential, and then one day, you stopped. Not out of bitterness, not to punish her, but because you realized your energy wasn't being matched. That's powerful, because it tells her you had a chance. You fumbled it, and now I'm gone. And once that moment happens, she can't stop thinking about you. This is how you flip the dynamic. You don't need to manipulate her. You don't need to act cold or rude. You simply stop doing the most. You pull back and focus on yourself. You stop over-explaining, stop over-pursuing, stop overthinking. You just let her feel your absence. And here's the crazy part. When a woman feels your absence more than she ever appreciated your presence, she starts craving you. She starts to chase that feeling she used to get when you were around. And now, she's playing your game. This whole thing is about emotional leverage. Whoever cares less usually has more control. And while that might sound cold, it's just how human nature works. When you care more, you chase more. When you chase more, you value less. And when you value less, you accept less. But when you hold your ground, when you care enough to connect, but not enough to lose yourself, you put yourself in a position of power. And women respect that. They feel safer around that. Because now you're not reacting to her. You're responding to your own standards. That's what keeps her locked in. So here's the real test. Can you stay solid when she pulls away? Because that's the moment most guys slip. She goes quiet, and they panic. They flood her with texts. They try to win her back with compliments, flowers, or promises. And in doing that, they give away all their power. But the man who doesn't react, that guy is rare. He doesn't blow up her phone. He doesn't send long messages explaining himself. He doesn't try to chase her into giving him attention again. He just leans back, stays focused on himself, and waits. And that silence, that self-control, that's what makes her spiral. It's not the guy who yells, begs, or fights for attention that gets under a woman's skin. It's the man who can disappear quietly, the one who made her feel seen, made her feel wanted, but also made her feel like she had to step up. When that guy goes quiet, she doesn't just miss him. She questions herself. She wonders what she could have done differently. And once you're in her thoughts like that, it's over. Now she's the one replaying the moments in her head. Now she's the one checking your social media. Now she's the one stalking your stories just to see if you've moved on. And all you had to do was stop trying. A woman becomes obsessed with a man who values his peace over her chaos, who values his time over her drama, who walks away when things no longer align. That's strength. That's masculine energy at its core. And she might not say it out loud, but she feels it. She feels it when you don't break character, when you stay true to yourself, even when she tests you. And trust me, she will test you. She'll pull back to see how much control she has. She'll act distant just to see if you start chasing again. But when you don't, when you stay calm, composed, and grounded, that's when she realizes she's dealing with a man who's different. You've got to understand, obsession isn't created through constant effort. It's created through contrast. She needs to feel the high of your presence, and then the silence when you pull back. She needs to know what it's like to be around your energy, and then realize she can't get it whenever she wants. That emotional contrast creates depth, and depth creates curiosity. And curiosity, when fed just the right amount of attention, turns into obsession. It's a slow burn, but it lasts way longer than any short-term attention you'd get from chasing. And here's something that will really hit if you're listening closely. The moment you stop chasing is the moment she has to decide if you are worth chasing. And if you've been doing everything right, if you've kept your cool, stayed on your purpose, didn't overshare, didn't beg, didn't lose yourself, then she will. Because deep down, most women have never experienced a man who doesn't need their validation to feel worthy. A man who walks in confidence whether she's there or not. That's magnetic. That's unforgettable. That's what makes her wonder, months later, why no one compares to you. A woman becomes obsessed not with the man who tells her what she wants to hear, but with the man who shows her what she didn't even know she needed. A man who can challenge her, inspire her, and stand firm without being cruel. A man who doesn't flinch when she tests him. A man who can hold space, but not tolerate disrespect. She doesn't talk about that kind of man to her friends. She thinks about him, quietly, constantly, while she's with other guys, while she's laying in bed alone, while she's wondering if she messed up something she might never get back. That's the goal. Not just to get her attention, but to stay on her mind long after you're gone. Not to chase her, but to become the kind of man she has to come back to. And you don't get there by begging, over-talking, or constantly proving yourself. You get there by becoming more of you, by building a life that you're proud of, by having standards that don't drop just because a woman is beautiful, by being intentional with your time and energy. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes her obsessed. And here's the truth that most people won't tell you. Women love men who respect themselves, even if it means walking away from them, especially when it means walking away from them. Because that tells her you have a foundation, and if she ever wants to be part of your world, she's going to have to meet you where you are, not drag you down to where she wants you. She has to show up better. She has to grow. She has to match your energy. And when she does that, not because you begged, but because you inspired it, that's when she's fully invested. That's when she's hooked. So stop thinking obsession comes from over-effort. It comes from silence. It comes from mystery. It comes from emotional discipline. It comes from being so dialed in with who you are that you don't need anyone else to complete you. That kind of energy is so rare that when a woman feels it, she doesn't forget it. You're not just another guy in her inbox. You become the standard. You become the one she compares every other man to. And no matter how far she runs, how long she ignores you, how much she pretends not to care, trust me, she'll remember you. Watch the next video.